2014 general elections saw youth participation like never before. They were out there and are believed to have had their say in very large numbers. But in a country the size of ours, with such a sizable young population, are our young involved enough in politics? That's the big face-off of week as we kickstart a brand new week on Heads Up. With me now, Supriya Mukherjee and Chanchal, both students of Ramjas College here in Delhi, who are now going to have their say on this issue. Supriya, you believe that the young participation, the youth participation in the electoral process, in politics, is satisfactory.
Yes.
Your time starts now. Why do you think so?
Firstly, because we've seen political parties who have based their marketing strategy and their whole campaign around the youth. We've seen a party like BJP, which included the 4-year undergraduate program of the Delhi University in their manifestos. They realized that the Indian youth who will be voting, like this time around we had the largest section of the Indian youth who will ever vote in the general elections. They've completely realized that unless and until you get the youth to come in on your side, it's very difficult to make a difference. We've seen that a lot of the Indian youth have actually connected with Mr. Narendra Modi, and they've seen that he's probably one guy who stands for development and who voted. Then we've also seen like there are parties which have used social media very effectively. Social media predominantly in India is something which is very youth oriented. Now we've seen a party like Aam Aadmi Party, which has based its complete program and the campaign on the basis of social media. A lot of youth has actually connected well with the Aam Aadmi Party, and we've had this whole new party coming out of nowhere and knocking Congress and BJP out of Delhi. So I do believe that we've already had a lot of participation from the youth when it comes to going out and voting, and also a lot of youth who are actively discussing topics which have never been discussed before. Topics like religion over science, or topics like do we need more development, and development at what cost? These topics were never touched before.
So you're saying, your time's up, but so you're saying they're out there, they are involved more, they're having their say more, and these elections, of course, the numbers that we saw, you are right about the youth participation, prove your point. Chanchal, your time starts now. You have a minute. Why do you disagree?
To start with, I think the youth today are not like they are more westernized than ever before, and I think they don't care much about what's going in the country. They're not concerned about the future of the country. I think what they care more about is the future of their own lives and how they will be in the future, like the standard of life that they will get to live. And I think there's much apathy, there's much indifference in the youth today. There's no denying that. If you see, like if you're personally, my friends and me, like we are not, we don't get into the details of the everyday politics that happen today. We are more concerned about our education, about our career. So I think that's it.
Right, so you're saying it's more the day-to-day issues that sort of bog the youth down. They're not sort of looking at the larger picture. Now, he said it's not just, he's not just saying this, it's what he sees around him. He's saying it happens with when, my friends and I get together, we talk. Now, you are peers. Is it different in the circle that you move in, for instance?
Not really. I'll give you a very, very good example right now. The Israel and the Gaza Strip controversy. Take Facebook, for example. It's being discussed extensively on Facebook. A lot of people who did not know about the Palestine-Israel conflict actually know about it. Things are being discussed a lot more, and with the reasoning behind it is given like with this proper reasoning behind every argument which is being given. It's not something which comes out of the box like, okay, we believe in this, so please everyone should believe in this. It's about proper reasoning, details given about certain controversies. People are more aware. Yes, not everyone is as aware as they should be, but we don't live in a utopian world. We'll still have people who still believe that Pratibha Patil is the president of India.
Right.
But on the other hand, for every person who thinks that way, we also have people who are actively out on the streets voicing their opinions about every possible political topic.
Right.
So I guess
you're saying that there is a mix, but you still believe there's a number of people who are involved, who have an opinion on not just the political process here in India, but international affairs, on challenges that the world is facing are also growing. This is the age, of course, Chanchal, of social media. A lot of what our young say is expressed on social media. Their disagreements, their agreements, everything's sort of out there playing in a public space. But do you believe that's in a sense restricting, that there are only those who have access to this kind of media? who then have their say.
Yes. I'd like to talk about, like, I'm in a batch of English honors. I'm in third year right now. I'd like to, like, I'd shift the focus. Like, I'd like to talk about my classmates, and I don't think there are many students now who know about the topic that
Gaza
he
and
discussed,
what's
the Gaza,
happening.
the Palestine war now. I don't think many people are aware of it, and I think that's the ground reality. Like, people may know about Prime Minister
Or the president, but you're saying that maybe international affairs.
they may know about Narendra Modi and the whole wave that he carried, but the same is not true about world politics, and it needs to be changed.
So, are you saying that it's one thing that if they are sort of more aware, and I understandably so, of course, about what's happening in their immediate surrounding, what's happening in their own country, but not so much international affairs?
Yes.
Right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Is that your experience from your immediate circle as well?
Yes. The more I talk about it, I'm more disappointed actually. That that's the truth. I mean, people don't watch the news, they don't read newspapers. It's like that. They are in a niche of they are like in a cave of their own.
Right.
Like, if they have their Facebook, if they have their daily shows,
Right.
daily TV shows, they are not concerned about
Right.
very
Right.
much more.
Right.
So.
And that is a very important point. You know, there are lots of people who would agree with you there, where they sort of stay in, we tend to stay, especially at a certain age, in our own worlds, you know, and our life, as you said in the beginning, is often restricted to our education, what's the job that we're going to get, what's happening with our friends, you know, and all of that, the immediate environment.
Yeah.
Now, you know, you mentioned you mentioned Facebook and said a lot of activity on Gaza. His point is that that's a medium that's being used for lots of other things, for,
Yes.
you know, enhancing your social life, but knowing
Yes.
where the other person went on holiday, so on and so forth.
Yes.
How would you argue
The thing
with that?
is, it's very wrong to actually put each and every individual who comes under the section of the young India in one bracket.
Sure.
Reason being, there are a lot of people who believe that Facebook likes do matter a lot in their lives. On the other hand, there are people who talk about who've risen above armchair activism and are now on the streets talking about stuff. We've seen let's take some basic examples. Let's take the example of the four-year undergraduate program, the protests which were held against it. We saw the students were out there voicing their opinions. We did not see the Facebook activism or the armchair activism, as we like to call it. We all love to discuss topics about Indian politics, the international politics. It's really comfortable for us to sit in our drawing rooms and having a nice chat about it in our air-conditioned rooms. But the Indian youth has started going out, and it's a start. It's an organic change that will happen
Right.
slowly and steadily. So why can't we be satisfied with what we already have right now?
Right. Important point, you know, Chanchal, be it the Anna Hazare movement when it happened a few years ago in Delhi, or the Nirbhay incident, we did see a lot of youngsters out there. He's now talking about the 4-year program. Do you believe that there is now an attempt, or perhaps a realization that you can't stay away? You have to be involved, and if you have an opinion, you have to be out there and make your voice heard. Or do you believe that it's not true of most?
Well, the changes that have taken place in the recent future, people do get optimistic about it, but that's for a very limited period, what I think it is. You may talk about the Anna Hazare movement and how it brought the youth together, but I don't really see it changing things in the present times. I mean, it has not carried the force that it started
You're saying
with.
the momentum sort of
Yes,
wasn't sustained.
the
People
momentum
came,
is lost.
and that's very true, of course, also of the protest that came out when that young girl was so brutally assaulted. There were all those out there marching every day, you know, getting their voices heard, taking on the police, taking on the administration. But then, of course, the cynics would always argue that we didn't carry the momentum far enough.
But we were actually discussing these problems. India is a culturally rich country where we don't talk about rapes, but Then when something like this happens, we go out on streets to protest. That sort of thing changed. We are actually talking about safety for women. We are talking about how to change the basic mentality of people towards things like these. Victim bashing has stopped to a greater extent. If you knew about the situation around the Delhi University campus, let's take Delhi on a whole. Before, if someone was busy eve teasing a girl, you wouldn't find anyone standing up for her. Do it right now, and I can promise you that if at least if I'm there at the place where you're trying to probably harass a girl, I'll stand up and I'll take care of that girl. Like, she need not be harassed, right? There are people who are standing
I must
up.
interrupt to say, I just wish that we got more voices of this kind, and we really need more people like you, because of the biggest problem so far, and we're digressing from the topic, but the biggest problem so far, of course, has been that when a person, a woman especially, finds herself in such a situation, most people tend to look away, that it's not my problem. But Chanchal, do you think that this is the example that he's quoting about himself is signs that the winds of change are blowing?
Well, not really.
Okay.
Like, I pick up the newspaper every day, and what I see is, on the front page, on the second page, what I see is there are a lot more rapes, there are a lot more abuses against women that are happening today. Now, I want to ask is, the question that I want to ask is, where is the change? Why have things not improved? Like, if you're saying कि the Nirbhaya rape case brought people together, it got people mobilized, it changed the views of the people. So why is it not that these rapes have stopped? Why is it that? Like, I can't really fathom this.
Because I would imagine that we haven't reached everybody, and the fear of the law, of course, still not strong enough. But the one important point, of course, that you're making is that at least we are now talking about it. At least in certain circles, I totally agree with you. It's not like that was going to be, you know, the one moment where everything that was wrong with the society would get fixed, but at least we're talking about it, and women especially now coming forward and reporting such incidents and not brushing them under the carpet. You wanted to make a point, Supriya?
Yes, like he's been talking about how really a change has not happened overnight, and these things have only increased. The report, like, people have become more aware about sexual assault, so they're going out and actually making themselves heard. Indian youth right now, if anything wrong happens, for example, if there's corruption in a particular department, we'll see people who are raising their voices, who are probably blogging about it. We've never seen people who blog about stuff that happens. For example, the whole Tehelka Kant. There was this whole, this girl, this intern, she wrote about her things, like she wrote about her experiences in a blog. And it spread out, like it spread like wildfire on social media, and a lot of people knew about it.
Right,
and this whole thing blew up from them. So we're seeing changes will not happen overnight, but these are organic changes. These changes will happen slowly and steadily.
You're saying that a beginning has been made.
Yes.
Of course, in her case, it was also a personal email that was also leaked initially, much before she came up with her side of events. But I do see your point there. Chanchal, you know, you're saying that not enough has changed. There are all those who would agree with you, saying that we have a long, long way to go before we can really talk about it. But in your immediate circle, when you say that people aren't as aware as they ought to be, but there's a certain kind of apathy, how do you believe people like you can bring in change?
Well, we can be more informed to start with. We can read the newspapers, we can watch the news, we can make an earnest effort to be aware of everything that's taking place. We can.
Do you see that happening anytime soon? Do you see do you see people making that effort? Do you see people attempting to make that effort?
Well, yes. Right now, I am seeing a change. I do see a change. There are people in the youth. People have come up, and I think it is slow, but in the long run, it will be good for the society.
It will be good for society. It's good to see that both of you finally agree on one thing, that at least there are some signs of change here. We have a long way to go, but of course, the youth voice there, perhaps now more significant and louder than we've seen it in recent years. But Chanchal, Supriya, thanks both so much for joining us. We're slipping to a quick break now. After that, all that's making news online you didn't know but can't get away from it anymore.